If you are here because you are your family's scapegoat, then I would like to begin by saying that this is a safe space for you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with your personality or your character. You are the sanest member of your narcissistic family system, and your life circumstances are beyond your control. You are a survivor. Now here is the truth spoken by this truth teller and former family scapegoat. You grew up in an unhappy home where the real issues were systematically swept under the rug. You helplessly watched as everyone held brooms and dustpans, collectively shrugging their shoulders while attempting to conceal the messes and drama consistently created by the narcissistic family member. A thick veil of the happy family illusion hung over your dysfunctional family. To outsiders, a completely different facade may have been presented. All smiles, warmth, empathy, achievement, and pride. But behind closed doors, it was a different world. The atmosphere suddenly changed when no one was looking. Accepting that we come from dysfunctional families is a difficult fog to emerge from, because dysfunctional behavior was a normalized part of our upbringing. However, grasping this fact is necessary for the healing process to begin. Dysfunctional families rarely, if ever, admit that they have deep-seated issues. As the family scapegoat, you'll notice that they conveniently develop collective amnesia when past traumatic incidents are mentioned or when you seek comfort. They will rationalize the narcissist's cruel punishments, such as prolonged silent treatments, persistent bad-mouthing, character destruction, and even physical abuse. All the members of a narcissistic family system will consistently find reasons to explain and rationalize the behavior of a dysregulated family member who is completely out of touch with reality. The entire family, unwilling to confront the aftermath of dealing with a narcissist, shifts its focus to the easiest and most cowardly solution, blaming and ultimately discarding the most vulnerable family member, the scapegoated child. In a narcissistic family dynamic, the scapegoat is the child who is made to bear the blame and shame of the family dysfunction, all so that a narcissistic family member can continue behaving as they do without ever being challenged and without ever taking accountability for their shortcomings, failures, emotional dysregulation, and abusive behaviors. Scapegoating is in fact a very poor defense mechanism in which a person projects the issues they want to avoid dealing with within themselves onto another individual. In the context of a narcissistic family, the chosen target of the narcissistic parent is typically the child, who is most profoundly affected by them and who becomes unwilling to conform to such a dysfunctional way of life. The child's reactions become a perfect source of supply for the narcissistic parent. The more the scapegoat reacts to the consistent abuses and antagonisms created by the narcissistic parent, the more the rest of the family contends that this child disrupts the peace by never tiptoeing enough to keep the narcissist calm, has a bad character, and never tries hard enough to change their flaws, even though it's impossible for the scapegoat to change enough to ever satisfy the narcissistic parent. As the scapegoat grows into adulthood, they often encounter ignorant comments from outsiders such as, "Why don't you just fight back? Why don't you just set boundaries?" In a narcissistic family system, doing those things provides the narcissist with precisely the ammunition they need. It's like handing them a loaded gun. The scapegoat's reactions will always become weaponized and used against them, further reinforcing the narcissist's narrative that they indeed have a devil child, allowing the family to conveniently stick to the story that the scapegoat is a disturber of the peace who simply can't get with the program like everyone else. The truth is that the scapegoat is the sanest and most authentic family member who is punished precisely for attempting to stay true to their authenticity in a family where dysfunction is normalized and allowed to rule. There might have come a point in your life when you asked yourself, why me? Why did I become the scapegoat? What is wrong with me? What did I ever do to deserve this? Why does my parent hate me so much? This self-blaming thinking pattern needs reframing. It isn't about any inadequacy, flaw, or fault that you might possess. Your imperfections were never meant to be used as an excuse for abuse in the first place. Furthermore, this isn't how unconditional love works. No healthy parent would ever withhold love from their own child for making mistakes, having disagreements, having an adventurous temperament, or having a mind of their own. No. The correct way to phrase this question is, what is it about you that triggers your narcissistic parents' jealousy, resentment, self-hatred, and shame, which they will never admit to feeling, not even to themselves? The truth is that you possess powerful qualities that stir the narcissist on a deep level. Instead of doing the right thing, which would be to confront their deeply rooted shame, take accountability for their actions, and engage in the hard work of personal development, a narcissistic parent will stubbornly cling to the power dynamic they've established with their own children. They will do whatever it takes to save face, even if it means destroying the life of their own child, and going as far as ensuring that they do not have a family to turn to for support in the aftermath. A narcissistic parent will ensure the complete isolation of their own child just to be right. A scapegoated child has very little chance of getting to know themselves and having a normal upbringing, where their personal development is at the center of the parent's focus. Instead, the narcissistic parent demands to be the center of the child's focus at all times, or else the child will be vilified and destroyed. Narcissistic supply refers to the constant need for attention, admiration, and validation that the narcissist seeks from those around them to quell their inner turmoil. These individuals can be likened to emotional and psychological vampires, feeding off the energy and emotions of others. When they don't receive the admiration or validation they desire, they resort to exploiting their victims' vulnerabilities through emotional manipulation, aiming to provoke strong emotions. The more intense the emotions they elicit in their targets, the greater the relief the narcissist feels. To achieve their goal, narcissists employ a variety of tactics. One common strategy is gaslighting, which involves distorting reality and sowing doubt about the scapegoat's sanity, memory, and reasoning abilities. This tactic weakens the scapegoat, keeping them unable to love and trust themselves. Furthermore, narcissists deliberately provoke dramatic conflicts and then position themselves as either victims or saviors, despite being the instigators of the disputes. Some narcissists may even take the extreme step of weaponizing their care and concern, using it to portray their chosen scapegoat as ungrateful and selfish. It's important to recognize that these manipulations occur within the context of conflicts they themselves initiated to quench their need for supply. The term Darvel was coined by Jennifer Freed, a psychologist and researcher in the field of interpersonal violence. The Darvel method is a common strategy used by perpetrators of abuse to deflect responsibility and avoid accountability. Darvel stands for deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. In this case, the perpetrator is the narcissistic parent who will deny any wrongdoing. They will then proceed to attack the victim, their targeted scapegoated child, in various ways such as demonizing their character, amplifying their past mistakes that are completely unrelated to the issues at hand. They will use guilt tricks designed to evoke deep shame within the child, and may even threaten the victim with consequences such as the withholding of love or resources, physical violence, and emotional abuse. They will then rationalize their own bad behavior by claiming that the victim provoked them into having a reaction. They had to give their own child the silent treatment. They had to withhold love. They had to smear their name to anyone who listens. They had to humiliate them. They had to punish them as they did. They had no choice because they, the poor narcissistic parent, are but the victims of a cruel world in which their greatness is always cruelly underappreciated, and that child should have known better. This leads to the reverse victim-offender stage, where they will reverse the entire situation, portraying themselves as the victims, and labeling the true victim of their abuse as the offender who deserved what they got. They will condition not only their own child, but the entire narcissistic family system to believe that there is something wrong with the scapegoat, that they are so unlovable, so evil, so worthless, so beneath them, that their character is so bad, that they do not deserve a loving parent. They will condition the entire family system to believe that how the scapegoat is treated is absolutely normal, rational, and even necessary. This cycle becomes completely normalized in a narcissistic family system. The narcissistic parent uses a variety of tactics to distort, manipulate, and undermine their victims' perceptions and sense of self. The enablers of a narcissistic family system will also jump on that train, which is designed to keep the issues hidden. The scapegoat submissive and accepting of their fate and position within the family hierarchy. Gaslighting can take many forms, including denying the victim's experiences or memories, dismissing the victim's emotions or feelings as insignificant tantrums and shows for attention they do not deserve to get, making the victim doubt their own judgment or sanity, questioning the victim's perception of reality, using lies or half-truths to manipulate the victim's understanding of a situation, twisting facts or events to make the victim appear irrational or unstable, blaming the victim for things that are not their fault, and developing sudden amnesia around the traumas that they inflicted on their victim. The immense amount of energy and focus required to stay calm during such horrible interactions is absolutely draining, to say the least. That is why it becomes crucial for anyone dealing with this type of toxicity to master the art of observation without reacting or responding. You must learn to completely detach from anything that comes out of their mouth. Their words are poison. Everything they say to you has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with how they feel about themselves. The narcissist doesn't care about facts. They only care about being praised, being soothed, being worshipped, and being right. The gray rock method is used to interact with emotionally manipulative or volatile individuals, particularly in the context of narcissistic abuse. The idea behind the method is to remain emotionally neutral, unresponsive, and uninvolved when interacting with this type of person, much like a gray rock. The goal is to not give them the attention or emotional reactions they crave, and to avoid getting pulled into their drama or manipulation. This can help to diffuse potentially explosive situations, and includes not responding to provocations, not engaging in personal attacks, and not giving in to emotional pleas. By learning to keep calm, you prevent the narcissist from attaining that sense of relief they get from your reactions. When you respond neutrally, you deny them the opportunity to release their negative emotions on you. However, it's important to be aware that when using this method, especially in the initial stages, the narcissist may escalate their tactics in an attempt to provoke an explosive reaction from you. If you remain unreactive, They may resort to calling you cold and uncaring, often intensifying their efforts to smear your name. They may enlist other family members to join in, labeling you as heartless, unaffectionate, uncaring, and cold. Dealing with a narcissistic parent is invariably a lose-lose situation for the scapegoat, as these parents can be unrelenting in their efforts to maintain control and continue scapegoating even from a distance. This is where flying monkeys come into play. Flying monkeys are family members or friends who act as messengers and enforcers on behalf of the narcissist. Their role is to trigger the scapegoat's guilt and shame, making the scapegoat feel responsible for the family's unhappiness when they attempt to safeguard themselves. The reinforcement of false beliefs by the flying monkeys will often intensify when the scapegoat decides to protect themselves from further psychological harm by distancing themselves, emotionally detaching, or setting the final boundary of going completely no contact with a narcissistic parent. So while the Grey Rock method is designed to safeguard yourself when dealing with toxic people, it will not change the narcissist, nor will it change how the enablers protect the family image and enable the horrendous behaviors of the narcissistic family member. The scapegoat will be vilified no matter what they do. This is the very nature of scapegoating. So, you might as well be yourself and let the cards fall where they may. It is of no use holding on to a group of people who collectively scapegoat a family member as a means to avoid dealing with the real issues. A family that scapegoats their own is a family that refuses to heal. This is not within your control. What is in your control is how you treat yourself, the focus of your energy and thoughts, and how you decide to live your life. As Carl Jung famously said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." Being the scapegoat in a narcissistic family system can leave lasting imprints on one's beliefs and self-perception. These internalized beliefs might manifest as feelings of unworthiness, unlovability, inadequacy, never being enough, not fitting in. These false beliefs can become deeply ingrained in the scapegoat's psyche, continuing to influence their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors even after they had distanced themselves from the family system. The false beliefs that plague the scapegoat are deeply reinforced by the fear ingrained during their conditioning by the narcissistic parent. Every time the scapegoat attempted to be their authentic self or pursue self-actualization, they faced punishment, criticism, and disappointment. Consequently, as we mature, we carry the belief that the world will treat us the same way our own families did if we dare to reveal our true selves. We've been conditioned to tie our worth to others' opinions of us, leading to deep-seated fears of being disliked or rejected if we let our true self shine through. Our tendency is to hyper-focus on those who dislike us or negative comments, attempting to rectify it continuously. This behavior is a manifestation of our subconscious reliving our childhood experiences, trying to mend something that cannot be fixed. The narcissistic family system instilled within the scapegoat fears of abandonment, of setting healthy boundaries, of asserting individuality, fears of not measuring up, and the dread of pursuing our own goals and aspirations, as any mistakes that we would make along the way would serve as proof that we are failures. The scapegoat has learned that every time they dare to break free from their shell, they were met with pain and rejection. The narcissistic family system has created an invisible prison within the scapegoat's mind, shaped and perpetuated by these false beliefs. By becoming aware of the limiting beliefs that form an invisible wall, constraining us from reaching our true potential, we can start to break free from the invisible prison that the narcissist has imposed on us. It is crucial to recognize that these beliefs, were forced upon us by dysfunctional family dynamics and do not accurately reflect our true worth or potential. They are distorted perceptions that have gradually become internalized. They can be unlearned. To unlearn these false beliefs, one must first become aware of them. And to become aware, the scapegoat must summon the courage to look within themselves for the very first time, accepting themselves as complete individuals, embracing the good, the bad, and the ugly. When you get to know your inner demons, you gain the ability to choose whether to let them control you or not. The first step is getting to know those inner demons, understanding that no human being is exempt from grappling with them. Familiarizing oneself with these false beliefs also allows the scapegoat to distance themselves from the toxic messages they've internalized. It enables them to cultivate a more objective and compassionate self-view, realizing they are not defined by the negative labels placed upon them by their narcissistic family system. This awareness can be empowering and liberating, as it opens the door to personal growth and self-acceptance. The truth is that changing the mentality of a narcissistic family system is beyond your control. Changing a narcissistic family system is a daunting task because you're attempting to alter a dynamic where all members, regardless of the cost, avoid confronting the central figure. Suppressing your own needs and pushing past your trauma to seek recognition within the family won't lead to change. As the scapegoat, you are an integral part of the family puzzle, and the more you strive for justice, the more ammunition the narcissist will have against you. You're pleased to be seen, heard, validated, accepted, and most importantly, for the deep trauma and suffering that the narcissistic parent has caused you will only lead to endless discussions that seem to go in circles, with your pain constantly in competition with the narcissist's victimhood narratives and he said, she said dynamics that never, ever end. The narcissistic parent will not change for you, and the world will always revolve around their superior experiences, feelings, life stories, and superior position within the family. Whether you choose to emotionally detach and focus on your healing process, or persist in making yourself ill by fighting for the true family dysfunction to be addressed, likely won't alter the inner workings of a narcissistic family system. To ascertain this, simply take an objective look at the patterns and cycles you've endured with your family. How many times have you expressed your issues, pain, and concerns? How often have you pleaded for help? How many times were you minimized, invalidated, diminished, or brushed aside? If this is a recurring pattern, you have the answer. For the result of an equation to change, there must be a change in the numbers that constitute the sum. Something has to change. Your situation with your family members is likely to remain as it has always been, with the same behavioral patterns, dysfunctional beliefs, and needless sacrifice in the name of what they perceive to be love, especially if you continue doing what you've always done. Narcissistic family systems are controlled by a single individual who dictates the rules, and everyone must comply to avoid their tantrums. The family's primary goal is to keep the narcissist calm. In such a scenario, understand that the change you seek must come from within the family members, and when they are not willing to confront reality and deal with the issues at hand, there's nothing you can do. It's not within your control, and it may be best to let go of the situation and focus on your own well-being. Become mindful of any toxic guilt holding you back and work on letting it go. It's important to accept that you can't change what you can't change, and make the decision that is best for your well-being. Letting go of unhealthy attachments that hold you back may initially feel wrong, but it's necessary for your growth. When we have a deep emotional attachment to something and we must let it go, it can feel like we are being asked to rip ourselves in half. But holding on to the things that hurt us will not heal us. Taking the time to process before you let go and move on is important. Articulating what happened, what you learned, and how you changed, what you actually want to let go of, and what it will look like for you when you do, will help you let go of the things that you can't control and that are keeping you stuck in a toxic, repetitive, and hurtful loop. Healing is not a destination. It is a lifelong journey that starts with self-focus and self-care. It's time to change your perspective and start acknowledging and validating your feelings, experiences, strength, and resilience. Acknowledge the toll that stress has taken on your body and make a firm commitment to prioritize yourself moving forward. Your emotional well-being should be regarded as an absolute priority, and your individuality deserves space to flourish without criticism, shame, or guilt for simply being yourself. Understand that your boundaries, limits, preferences, and overall individuality are not flawed or oppositional. They only clash with the narcissistic parent's unrealistic expectation that you should be their extension rather than your authentic self. The narrative created by the narcissistic parent, labeling you as flawed, evil, and oppositional, is false. As you embark on your healing journey, you'll begin to realize that many of the fears within you were instilled by the narcissistic parent. In truth, you are more than capable of breaking free from the false norms of the narcissistic family system. You can take those first steps by transforming fear into genuine curiosity about the world and yourself. As you begin doing this, you will discover that within you lies untapped potential waiting to be explored. Celebrate your life and your worth, as your opinion and your well-being matter. You must begin to work on truly feeling this in your heart. You don't need other people to validate your chosen goals, the veracity of your feelings, your discomforts, or your ability to reason. You don't need permission to set boundaries, and you certainly do not owe anyone a relationship except for the one that you develop with yourself. Bring your focus towards creation, towards recreating yourself, and away from the destruction consistently being caused by the narcissistic parent in your life. It is important to understand that removing yourself from a toxic and hurtful situation is not selfish, but rather a necessary step towards healing and peace. You have the power to take the steps towards healing. Your narcissistic family may have never taught you that you are worthy of love, and this is because in a narcissistic family system, poison is disguised as love. Let go of the things that are not within your control, such as other people's behaviors, other people's unrealistic expectations, false responsibility and guilt that is not your burden to carry. Focus on setting boundaries that protect your emotional safety and mental health, and you will begin to see progress in your healing journey. It is a slow process, but with patience and lots of self-care, you can bring yourself to a healthier place. And when you feel self-doubt creeping in on you during those darkest times, repeat, "I love myself, I trust myself," over and over and over until it sinks in. This is the root where all things must begin. You must commence the process of giving yourself the unconditional love that your narcissistic parent prevented you from accessing for yourself. Repeat, "I love myself, I trust myself" 1,000,000 times if you have to, until that message really sinks in. Love and trust yourself. It's about time you give yourself permission to do so.